Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll start off this new series based on your suggestions. Please keep them coming. I'm going to be doing these videos throughout the end of this week and then towards next week as well. This one was actually suggested on a previous set of videos. So again, it goes to show that if you haven't seen your suggestion done earlier, I do go back in time and see some of the previous suggestions, and if it comes across as something that is interesting to talk about now as opposed to then absolutely I will indeed talk about it here. And in this case, it was a suggestion based on a variance of the UB85 atrocity, which was a pretty popular video. I mean, I looked up the number of views that it has, and it looks like it really resonated with people, so I was happy to come across this suggestion again, and that way I can share it with everybody here. And in this case, it has to do with an encounter very similar to the UB85 atrocity, which if you haven't had a chance, check out that video. Again, it seems to be a pretty popular video in of itself, and this particular cryptid is known as the U-28 creature. So very similar to the UB85 atrocity in that they are both creatures that were encountered during a battle of sorts during a world war, particularly between enemy combatants, but in sea. So for example, this particular encounter was during World War I, and this is what happened. The U-28 creature comes from the U-boat that came across this creature during World War I. It was U-boat 28, and it was captained by a commander by the name of George G. von Forstner, and he described this particular encounter with this creature in one of his logbooks. His logbooks, by the way, are out there on the internet to view. I mean, I came across one just on text format, and I imagine that there's probably more links available both on PDF and probably on Amazon and so forth. So if you wanted to see essentially what he chronicled from his logbooks, they're out there. Just take a look, and he describes apparently a very rich, detailed history of what it's like to command a U-boat of sorts, especially during World War I. And some of the reviews that people have said of his logbooks have stated that they're a great representation of the claustrophobic ways and lives that people lead whenever they have most of their time spent in these U-boats. So here's what he encountered. And again, this is straight from his logbooks, straight from the man himself. And most people that have known or talk about captains of the sea life know that they're not prone to essentially like give flamboyant tales or made up tales of the things that they encounter. From their perspective, they want to be taken seriously, so they're not going to claim something to this following effect if they know for certain that they're going to be ridiculed later on. No, and so most people that look at the logbooks, especially of this guy, say that he's telling the truth, that again he would not do something like this out of the ordinary because it's in his nature as a captain, especially as a captain of a crew of who knows how many men in a World War I type dangerous setting, that he's not one that's prone to make up all these fantastical tales. So this is what he wrote. You have to go back in time, and he gives the date as July 30th, 1915. He says, on July 30th, 1915, our U-28 torpedoed the British steamer Iberian, which you'll see a picture of here of a steamer. I don't know, I couldn't find the one of the exact steamer named Iberian, but it goes to show a representation of what they look like. So he said, we torpedoed it, which was carrying a rich cargo across the North Atlantic. The steamer sank so swiftly that its bow stuck up almost vertically into the air, and moments later the hull of the Iberian disappeared. So the wreckage remained beneath the water for approximately 25 seconds, at a depth that was clearly impossible to assess, when suddenly there was a violent explosion which sought pieces of debris, among them, and this is very key, among them a gigantic aquatic animal out of the water to a height of approximately 80 feet. At that moment, I had with me in the conning tower 6 of my officers of the watch, including the chief engineer, the navigator, and the helmsman. Simultaneously, we all drew one another's attention to this wonder of the seas, which was writhing and struggling among the debris We were unable to identify the creature, but all of us agreed that it resembled an aquatic crocodile, which was about 60 feet long, very, very distinctive, 60 feet long, with 4 limbs resembling large webbed feet, a long pointed tail, and a head which also tapered to a point. Unfortunately, we were not able to take a photograph, for the animal sank out of sight after 10 or 15 seconds. Pretty good description. This guy, this captain, he can give a good description of an account right there between those 2 paragraphs. So kudos to him. The people that gave the reviews, they're spot on. I mean, if he can give this kind of description just within 2 paragraphs, imagine what he gives when he's talking about just in general the life of being a captain of a U-boat. But that was the experience, that was the encounter, and unfortunately it's the only known encounter of this U-28 creature. It's been dubbed that name because, again, of the boat, so no official other term given to it, nothing like the atrocity that I was talking about earlier. No, it's just been known thereafter as the U-28 creature, with the possible summation that it is a crocodile. But again, the key distinct factor of this is that we're talking about a crocodile based on his observation, and again, as a captain, he's one that would have to be very accurate with regards to his readings. He has to be, because his life and the life of his men depends on it. When they're dealing with something involving other ships, people firing at them, missiles, torpedoes, they have to be very, very accurate when it comes to anything involving distance and the draw between them, so they can make sure that if they're trying to evade something or if they're trying to strike something, they are very, very accurate. So when he says that it was an aquatic crocodile about 60 feet long, that instantly stands out. Crocodiles, of course, are not that large. So what could this be? Could this be, in fact, a crocodile? Or could it be something as far as another prehistoric type creature, a dinosaur-like creature, maybe a mosasaurus or something along the lines of other more well-known dinosaur-like creatures, maybe a long-lost artifact, a cousin of sorts, somebody that survived the dinosaur age but morphed into its crocodile-like status. Very, very fascinating. The people that have looked into this story have tried to surmise what was this creature, this U-28 creature, doing in and around that area in the first place. And one suggestion is that it was actually being transported by the British steamer, the Iberian. Because, again, he chronicled in the book, he called it as the British steamer Iberian, which was carrying a rich cargo across the North Atlantic. Could that cargo have consisted of the creature itself? And the reason why people suggest this is because when the steamer was going down into the water, probably parts of it, very, very hot parts of it, it is a steamer after all, once it reached critical mass of sorts and the hotness touched the coldness of the water and there was that explosion that the captain described, was shot a whole bunch of debris into the air, maybe this particular creature was within the steamer at the time. Maybe it was being transported from one part of the world to another. But because of the explosion, it was released into the air. Again, shot up about 80 feet into the air due to the mass explosion of the steamer. And so that's why some people have suggested that's why it was in and around the area, because it was actually being transported right then and there by the steamer. Others have suggested, by the way, I believe that one more than this one, because others have suggested that maybe this is a creature that just happened to come across this battle, this encounter, during that day on July 30th. But it doesn't really make that much sense, because when we're dealing with creatures, they're more prone to stay away from something that seems chaotic. It's just the nature of creatures. I mean, it's almost like a unwritten rule. You all know and I know that whenever there's something happening in the wild and the creature sees or hears something chaotic, they don't stick around. Their natural inclination is not to fight but to flight, and so they'll run away. And so for something like this creature to instead see this encounter, whatever was happening between the British steamer and the U-boat, and instead of running away, being drawn towards it. And not only that, but after this thing was torpedoed, this British steamer, and exploded, then it went straight above it right at the time of the explosion. It just seems a little bit too much far-fetched, along the lines of it's too much of a coincidence, too many items that you would have to take for granted in order for that to work. So I'm more along the lines inclined that, who knows, maybe this British steamer Iberian was indeed transporting this creature. It certainly was large enough, the steamer was, to do so. Maybe it had encountered this creature somewhere along the lines. Maybe it was transporting it for some kind of research purposes. Who knows? But unfortunately, with regards to this steamer, once it was blown up, it was there, done in the Atlantic, in the North Atlantic. It's gone. Like this thing, the British steamer just went all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. So any clues pertaining to what this creature had, where this creature came from, if they were tied to that British steamer Iberian, then they're down there in the bottom of the ocean right now. So unless someone takes the daunting venture of trying to find what this where this creature hailed from by that British steamer, it's a daunting task. Then we're pretty much left with no more clues. And unfortunately, on the animal side, once, as the commander stated, the animal sank out of sight after 10 or 15 seconds. The key word being sank made it seem like this particular animal, the explosion that happened to it, it was enough to kill the beast. If not kill, seriously maim it and maybe kill it later on. Because when we're talking about something involving an explosion that's so big, so massive, that it throws debris not just from within the water, but out straight from the water up to 80 feet in the air, that could definitely damage any living thing. So if this was indeed, like, let's say, a long lost cousin of some kind of dinosaur-like creature, and maybe it was the last one of its kind, then that's it. This creature, once it sank out of sight after about 10 or 15 seconds, then there wouldn't be any more known sightings of it, which seems to be the case. This is the only known instance of this U-28 creature being come across. And if anyone from the British steamer Iberian knew about the creature, they sank with the boat itself, so there will be no living witnesses left from them. Also, anybody living from the U-28 boat itself, the key with this day being 1915, those people are long dead, so we have no more living testimony from their end as well. So quite fascinating, very interesting tale. Unfortunately, that's where it stops. No other known history, no other known experiences, eyewitnesses. Everybody is either long dead, and the only known evidence is probably long dead into the sea too. So interesting stuff. So if anyone has any more information they can share about the U-28 creature, please, post your comments, share them below. What do you guys think? Is it a crocodile? Some super crocodile of sorts? Again, we're talking about something that is 60 feet long. So if this was the largest known crocodile in the world, and was being the key word that is no longer living, then if anyone has any other tales that they can get, then they can share, please share them below. Or do you guys think it's more along the lines of a dinosaur, something that was a living creature that past the age of the extinction of dinosaurs, and then happened to come across this particular encounter there in World War I? Please share them below too. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.